Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session with your host,
Michael Rearden.
Making me love with I know what I'm gonna do. So I'm like, serious. What is that?
Well, listen. The awesome part about like the podcast and things like that is like it's a conversation between two people that has already happened. You know, people who are listening to this, we have already had this conversation. People are tuning in for the first time. You know, I'm human. I make so many mistakes myself, but it's just so, it's so much fun to, be able to speak to people, especially from different cultures. Because if you speak with someone who has a different name, like I might speak from someone from India, they have a very different type of name. And then if I speak with someone from Africa, they have a very different type of name. And the pronunciation is always difficult sometimes when it comes to like how you pronounce it. Because in America, we just have like a very tight tongue. It's like yeah, and then other countries, it's like you have to use the throat. So like for your example, your name is like Xiao.
Oh,
Xiao. Yeah.
like
See.
like you wanna do something that you don't wanna do.
Yeah. But I'm going to let you do your first and last name so everyone knows who you are from the jump, so we don't get it wrong. So I'm not butchering your name on the podcast, all of the show, but tell the world who you are, first and last name, and then tell them what you do.
Okay, cool. Thanks for having me. Gao Motsemme is my name. Come from Botswana originally, and I've been residing here in Germany for 10 plus years. And before we can step into what I do, I just want to extend my greetings to your audience, wherever you're listening from, Dumela, Lokai. And I know greetings you are used to other ways, but these are my greetings in my native language. So Dumela, it means agree. So it's a question that I'm throwing out there. What are you agreeing to? Especially when you're showing up to relevant concepts. What is it that triggered you to be here? What is your intention? Lokai is, where are you? You here fully, body, mind, and heart with us, where part of you is still held up in something that those couldn't have, all that. So with that invite, we just be here together. Like you say, this is the first time we're having this conversation, but the other, say, planet or dimension, this conversation has already been had. So there's a reason why we agreed to have this conversation. So when you show up not from full information of what we've heard, because I believe there have been many amazing experts here and we know a lot. And this is also one of the things that often interferes with our lives transforming, because we come in with I know. So the invite, when I say, may we show up from the not knowing, just a matter of taking a breath and we be. That is, we allow our body to communicate to us. It tells us whatever that is feeling. You may feel some resistance. You may feel a knee-jerk reaction, some sensation, some emotions and all that. But you are acknowledging everything that is coming through without making it mean something. Because when we do that, we tap into the old history, the information, what happened, what somebody said and what it meant. So with that said, I am a freedom illuminator, a human MRI psychic surgeon. And I help people to break free from generational imprints and connect fully to themselves, connect to their higher self, and thrive in the bedroom and boardroom and beyond.
This question might be new to you, and I want you to answer it any way you interpret it. What is the energy of people?
That's an interesting question, and I love it.
You are the person for this question. I know just from hearing what you do and how you help people. I think like you would give us maybe the most profound answer to this.
I would answer it in two ways. Sense of people often are not connected to themselves. So when people are not connected to themselves, that is, they react to what is in front of them, and often with who I am and when I show up, the first thing that comes through from a lot of people is fear. I don't know what triggers that, but it's something that shows up. And the next things that comes out, talk about fear and I'll talk about pain. Because it's quite interesting, because someone may seem normal as in like everything is fine, But for me, when I step in and I just connect, the person that will just jump up is like painful bodies. Like it's one of the things that is more, it's very common. Also like that fear that is hidden, and also even sadness and grief. Actually, it's like there's all those stuff. And interesting enough, a lot of people will be like, it's kind of like hidden. So we've learned to suppress it. It's suppressed. So we show up with all the smiles and all that. But when you connect that, people who, when I connect to immediately, I just want to put my hands on my head and start crying. How that energy is showing up, even though someone may either be stoic or just like smiley and positive.
When we're born with two fears only, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. As we develop and as we grow, we develop more fears. We're afraid of the dark, maybe when we're younger. Maybe we're afraid of heights when we're a little bit older. These fears are self-endowed, and oftentimes many of the things, according to the mindset, we can label them limits, are self-inflicted, where society gives us maybe some limits, or maybe we give ourselves some limits. We might feel that maybe we're in a certain circumstance. Maybe we can say, the reason why I'm in this life right now is because of my parents or my grandparents or my history, right? My ancestors. Maybe it could be, my boss is not giving me enough money, or my spouse is not loving me enough. And we can have all of these excuses. We can have all of these blames. When we start to look at us changing our life and changing our energy towards something more positive, what would be the first steps that we can take to relinquish maybe the shackles that we are living in?
Great question. And I would say the first thing is, what is it that you want? You can look at everybody else. Okay, fine, my boyfriend, my ex-husband, my husband, my wife, teacher, the boss, and everything. It comes back to us. What is it that I really want? Because that is what is going to help us to make the choice that is needed at that moment. Because you can sit there and blame everybody else. It doesn't matter whether this story is true. Because at times when we say you are making an excuse, some people are getting hurt. But yes, the story is true that happened, but does it serve you? When it comes to what do you really want, then you get to choose what is in alignment with your desires.
How would someone know that their desire is their true desire? For example, maybe I desire cake. I know cake is not good for me. I know it doesn't help me, but maybe I desire it. Maybe for men, I know they struggle with this pornography, right? Maybe they desire a certain type of woman, but then maybe that woman would be not a good fit for them, right? They are not in alignment. Their energy is off, just wrong. But we desire things sometimes, and we don't necessarily know what we truly want. It seems like that would be nice, and we finally get it. Happiness is not there. I know this happens to a lot of people who climb the corporate ladder, and they say, I'm going to make six figures. I'm going to get all this money, and I'm going to be a CEO of a company. And they finally attain all of these wonderful things, the cars, the houses, and they find that joy is not there. How can someone be sure what they're going for, what they desire is what they should be?
I'm laughing because I love your question.
Mm-hmm.
It's the perfect one. And when I say, what do you want? You say someone may feel like, okay, fine, I want to have sex. I want to eat a cake and all that. Those are wants that are coming from wherever that we think we are. And when I'm talking about desires, I'm talking about soul desires. And that is now who wants something and why? Because I can want something from my lower self. That is actually, it's quite interesting. I'm just going to share this. Today I was just sitting with myself and finally just like accepting that I am not an extrovert as I thought I was. Wounded aspect of myself was more outgoing and all that because I wanted to belong. But now when I look at it, I love when I show up 100% and with all the light and all the energy. But after that, I want to love myself. I want to recharge. I want to be with myself. So I'm not really an extrovert that I thought I was. I was doing it from the wounded perspective. So this is where you can differentiate, say, who is it that is wanting, and why? If I'm wanting from maybe thinking that it's going to give me something, I want to get married because who even wants to get married and why? I always, at times when I connect with people, and it's kind of like, I don't know, I want marriage, or even that not happy with our boyfriend, not been with this person. Of course, everything is fine, but how he's not proposing. I'm not saying what they want is not right, but the question is, do they want them to propose just because somehow marriage is something that has been, it's a big thing culturally in the family. We feel like when you get married, somehow it completes something, or it shows some ownership or whatever, or that you are loved or anything. That what you really want, or love the relationship that is. Because at times people miss or even appreciating they have, enjoying the moment, because they are running after an outcome, which could be the status, the label, and all that. And I love the example that you gave when you say at times you want to go through the corporate ladder. The question is, and I find this a lot with a lot of people that I work through, it doesn't matter whether it's someone who has been in Harvard and is a doctor, or he's a doctor. What I find is that we dive deep. I did it because I wanted to make my mother proud. I wanted my daddy finally to see me. Or because they never received the love, they did it. Every time when I received a report and I did well at school, there was a time when I was appraised. So they think that being appraised, achieving something, is love. That's the only way that they get to be seen. So they chase that. It's not even them. So when I say what you want, first thing you get to know who you are for you to even want that. Because otherwise you are wanting something that either is coming from the wound, which could be that pornography, which could be alcohol, which could be the cake, because there is something that is coming through that you don't want to feel. So if you don't want to feel this, then you're going to smoke a cigarette because you don't even know how to breathe. When you breathe deep, maybe it brings in some emotion. So it's kind of like, it's just, yeah, want that cigarette because I don't want to go deep, because the breath is one of the things that also grounds us on ourselves. So when I breathe deep, it may bring up some things. So a cigarette will be fine. It will make me feel okay, but yet it doesn't. It affects you even more. This is someone who is coming from a family of alcohol addiction, who has also been in a relationship with people with that pattern and even married to that pattern, because that's the only love that I knew. As much as I said I wanted love, till I did the work, the only love that I knew is the love of an emotionally unavailable, alcohol addicted person.
Yeah. Sometimes we fall into what is familiar to us, where if I grew up with, a father who was alcoholic and maybe, didn't treat my mom right, it's a good possibility that I can see that and say that that is the measure of a man. I can say maybe I should drink alcohol and, not treat the woman that I marry correctly. But then we do have to do some introspection. Like, is this truly what I want? Is this how I want to live? And then you have to even maybe go a step further. It's like, what benefit would this bring me? Does it make me happier? Does it fill me with joy and fulfillment? And maybe you start to get that comfortable feeling, right? Like, it seems normal, but just because something seems familiar doesn't mean that it's for you, because you might have that childhood trauma that you have learned to grow accustomed to, the yelling, the bickering, and you say that's normal. But have you looked in the alternative, the other side, where there's joy and there's happiness and there's positivity and there's confidence? All of these different things are factors to help an individual grow and develop. But it seems like we are just attracted to negative. Going back to our biology, we were developed to look at the negative because it helped keep us alive. If we heard something in the bush, for example, in caveman time, we think it's a saber-toothed tiger, we think it's maybe a snake, a lion, there's something out there just going to harm us. And at the time, it helped us. It was like, hey, this is something that we need to be paying attention to. So then our fight or flight system is going to activate. Do we run? Do we fight? Are we ready? The adrenaline is kicking. And in our world today, we have so many distractions from truly feeling and understanding how we should be. For example, public speaking is a great example. The fear from public speaking is the same fear as if that lion was in the bush. Like, is that lion in the bush? So we don't know how to differentiate between different types of fears, different types of happiness. We almost kind of lump things together. So that person who is an alcoholic, or that person who takes that smoke of, the puff of cigarette, maybe that's joy for them at the moment. But then we do have to look at what you said earlier. There's a lower self and then there's a higher self. If we are living in our lower self, what type of life would we be looking at? So, if you can give us some example of a person who's living in a lower self, what are they looking at? What are they feeling?
I love that, and then all that you said. And when it comes to a lower vibration aspect, here's the thing. Even when it comes to one other thing that is usually this is like what is coming in the forefront is the insecurity. Where maybe in a relationship with somebody, and you're always worried about, somebody's gonna take him from me. Where when you see somebody, someone who is embodying her feminine, who is looking good, who is comfortable in her skin, and she's walking through. You are here with the man, and she's walking through. This thing is kind of like, you don't even want the existence of that woman, because it's kind of like she's gonna take all the attention from your man, because you also can't take your eyes off that person, because it's just like an appreciation of beauty. So it's more like you're gonna be worried about external people or external circumstances. Somebody's gonna take this person away from me. And what I always say is, it's not about the third person. Your insecurity is one thing that is gonna take that person away, because you're gonna push that person away. You want to hold into them. You want them to love you. But what you're not aware of is, because it's hard to love someone who is insecure. And it's quite interesting, because when I realized that, I was like, oh, it's hard to love somebody who is insecure, because they're always looking for something wrong that is happening. They're not aiding, they're not expansive, they're not even open to receive. So insecurity is one of the things that is taking the best things that we desire and we desire from our life. Another thing is the self-criticism. How are we speaking to ourselves? As in, like, even when you look even in the mirror, how do we feel about ourselves? Because at times, often we want, even the whole thing of, I want you to tell me that you love me, like, show me that you love me. I'm all out there, but we don't look at ourselves to say, but how much do I love myself? Would you even marry yourself? How comfortable do you feel about you? Because it all comes from there. People love us at the level that we love ourselves. And one other thing is even commitment. How committed are you to your own being good, to your own joy, to your own freedom, to your own growth? Because you can only give other people who you are, and we attract what we are. So if we are not growing, if we are not committed to ourselves, the reason why relationships, marriages, and all that fail is there's no lack of commitment. And at the core of it, we are not committed to ourselves. Even respect, we may complain about it. This person does not respect me. And it's a big thing on men and also even women, especially if you've been in toxic relationships. But the core of it is how we respect ourselves. Even when you talk about that self-love, because the truth of it is, if you really loved yourself, let's look at what the universe is showing us. Would you be in a relationship with that person? Would you have made that choice? So it starts with that, the self-criticism, the insecurity. We know how we feel, even at times having that comfort zone where it's kind of like, because you don't want to grow. So you're kind of like, I'm just comfortable here. And here's the thing, even when I talk about all these things and the insecurity, you have a vision. You meet somebody who has made it. They've made it. Like, I met my own woman, I met my own baby. Yeah. They're just going to sit there and want to protect what they have. They're going to hold you back. Because as much as somebody wants you to grow, let me say, I love your money. You earning lots of money, and I love it because my man, they can get me all this and whatever that I say. And at the same time, part of me is afraid that if you can be your highest potential and achieve all that, I'm not sure if I'm going to be the woman enough for you to go for something better. So my prayers, because our prayers is how we're feeling and how we be. My prayers may just, I just want you to just a little bit, or just hold into that, whatever that you're earning, but I don't want you to be bigger. than you are, because you may outgrow me, you may not feel like I'm not your type or something like that. So the prayer is, where we being in every day? What is it that I'm wishing for you? What are the conversations that I'm having? What am I thinking about you? So you can't be with somebody like that. That energy is not in alignment with who and where somebody wants to be. So those are the things that we somehow push somebody away if we are not committed to our growth, loving ourselves, and appreciative of who we are. As in, like I said, would you marry yourself? Would you be in love with yourself? Will you commit to yourself? These are the things that we need to look at.
I love that question. Would you marry yourself? It also leads to the factor of delusion. For example, let's say, there's a scale of 1 to 10. Sometimes, image consultants might use this, or models might use this. Like, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10, like 1 to 10 in beauty or whatever? Of course, everyone wants to be a 10, right? Like, yeah, I'm a 10. Look at me. I'm fabulous. So it's also very similar to a catch. Like who wouldn't want to marry me? Because we give ourselves that aspect of already being perfect or being the best. Yet there are going to be opportunities for us to heal, become better, and learn. For example, one of the things I love about the podcast and about the work that I do is that it's continually a learning process. Every day, you're learning, you're developing, you're becoming closer to the person that you will be at the end. And it's almost like, is there an end to it? And there's not, like I know when we're young, we have to go to school, and we're like, I can't wait to be an adult. Like, when I'm 16, I get to drive, and then I can go off and live by myself, and I can eat all the foods that I want. I don't have to listen to mom and dad tell me to clean my room. And then you finally reach adulthood and you have all these responsibilities and these obligations. You're like, now I'm looking at it. I had it pretty good. And sometimes the blessings that we have are often overlooked because we are seeing ourselves for what we would like to be, the future self, right? Our dreams, our goals. And it's good to have that positive mindset. However, if we're living in a false reality where we're allowing hope only to take the wheel instead of action, we are always going to fall short of who we are, our greatness. And one of the things women do extremely well is they can band together and they can empower each other, saying, okay, like, I see where you would like to go. I see that there's some improvements, and we're going to do it in a way that's going to be caring and full of love. For men, it's a little bit different. It's almost like, all right, you need to do this, and it's kind of like a hard pill to swallow, and then they're like, okay, I have to get to work. It's not so much of the love aspect, even though it can be there. It's almost a different dynamic. When we're looking at the different sexes, right, men and women, how could they be a person that is invigorated to take more action? Because the mission for man and woman, if we look at society, is different. But then we can even say personally, it could be the same, right? But typically a man is on a mission, a woman can be on a mission too. Maybe it could be family. We look at values, we look at the system. There are some differences. And I'm leaving the question very vague because I would like you to answer it how you feel according to your upbringing, your history, working with different clients. What is that for you? So for example, you might say, from working with a bunch of women, I have found that this is one of the main causes, one of the problems, and we work on that first. And from working with men, this is where I see they struggle the most. But I do want to get your perspective on that.
Love that. And what is coming to mind first thing is kind of like this I don't know what to call it, that I was given, this download that I was given. It's just called death. I believe it applies to both men and women. I was given this death, meaning desires, emotions, alignment, trust, and that will determine whether you're going to create heaven or hell while you're still on. The death is healing the death of the feminine. Quite interesting because may believe that as women we are more connected to our feminine energy, but we are not. For us to be appreciated, to be seen, to be recognized, somehow we disconnected from who we truly are. For men, it's a wound that has been there where, like I said, patriarchy made men less, shutting off their hearts. Or they're still operating from the caveman times. The first thing is like, let's just kill. But doesn't serve us. This is why there's so many wounded. And it also made women powerless by shutting off their womb. So it's kind of like the other one is operating from an open heart. The other one is operating from an open. When I'm talking about womb, it's not like just a woman. For men, it would be the hara, that pelvic area, or that sexual energy, basically. This is why men, that thing is kind of like, instead of feeling the emotion, a man would want to be inside between a woman's legs, because there's something that I'm feeling and I don't know how to process it. And the only way is to just go through this. And what they're doing, that adding into the toxicity that is already in a woman. And because a woman would also want to love them, from there they're bringing that toxicity towards their heart. They put it through them. They're going to bring it back. So now it's a circle of toxicity and toxicity that is recycling. So I would say what's really needed is to heal the death of the feminine, because where men are connected to their sacred masculine, because for a man to embody his sacred masculine is for him to be in touch with his feminine side. When a man is connected to his wholeness, because that is a man being whole, that's like the sacred masculinity. And where men embodies that sacred masculine, the whole world feels safe, the children feel safe around them, the women feel safe around them. They create the structure, the protectiveness that is more allowing the women in their lives or even their children to bring in the inspiration to show them who they are. You can't show someone who you are if you don't feel safe around them. You're going to bring in the protective part, the defensive part. I get to defend myself. It doesn't feel safe. And at the core, us changing what has been so that we can move in a different direction. We need men who are whole. We need men who are king. But at the same time, when I say it applies for both men and women, is that when men are in touch with themselves, when men are whole, they show up fully present. They show up being in touch with their emotions. The women are not healed enough. They don't have the capacity to hold space for that king. They're going to destroy that man. They're going to destroy that king. So we both need to do the work so that when we're talking about a king and queen, we have the capacity to hold space for each other and lead together. Because it's not power over, which is the way of leadership that has been. It was more control, power over. Now it's power with. The question is, who are we being for us to be in power with, to live together?
Powerful. I like the package, how you presented it. I do the same thing on the podcast when I just do my regular episodes, where I'm presenting something. And in the middle, you're like, I don't know about this. And it's so funny because when I do clips and stuff for the podcast and I put it in shorts and reels, people get mad because it's out of context. Where if you don't look at the beginning, the middle, and the end, you're going to have some problem with what was just said. And I encourage people to rewind it, the back, this 5 minutes and listen to that beginning, the middle, and the end. And you'll see that there's those different layers that need to be there to make things work. It seems would be the best terminology, because oftentimes we're living very singular. Like, I'm living my life, you're living your life. Let's see if things work out. Oh, it didn't work out, whatever, right? And that separate, type of mindset that we are living in is stopping many people from truly embracing freedom. And I'm not just talking about freedom like freedom of speech and you can say what you want. And, like, of course, that freedom is there. But I'm talking about freedom to live how you would like to live. Going back to where we began our conversation, many people, they're not living true to themselves. They don't even know what they want. They don't know what they desire. So we have all of these problems starting to stack now, right? Things are starting to make sense to us. We can start to see, well, okay, this needs some adjustment. This can use some correction. This might need some modification. This might need some mindfulness. I have to start to look at the areas that need my attention versus I'm going to sweep this under the rug. And many people, they are in that mindset where I'm going to save this for tomorrow. I'm going to save this for next year, right? New Year's resolution. I'm going to save this for another time. And they're always in that waiting where we have to be able to take action today. We have to be able to say, if I would like to live and to have a fulfilling life, I need to be the proponent. I need to step into my missing energy. I need to be the proponents that were misaligned. And from there, things are going to start to make more sense. And I have found that if we do it by ourselves, there's going to be a lot of trial and error where we're like, okay, we tried this, it didn't work. It's almost like if you have an ailment and you go to Google and Google says, well, this could be the problem. And so you go to the pharmacy and you get some stuff and it's not the fix, right? So you're wasting all these money on things that you think when you can just go to a professional, go to someone who is trained or has helped people with the same types of issues. And again, we live in a very singular type of mindset, but we do need to bring back that aspect of community and unity and tribe-like being, because if we are going to live in this world, yes, we can have our own apartment, we can make our own money, we can have our own car, and we can feel like we're doing it by ourselves. But do you know who made that car for you? Do you know who's paving the roads for you to get to work? Who made the building, the electricity, the plumbing, the food, from the farmers that go to the grocery stores? All of this is from people, yet we are still thinking we do it by ourselves, and we do not. Like going back to what you said, there is that balance of that king and queen. And today it's almost like there's a battle between the genders and the sexes. It's like, all right, you're not showing up and this is a problem. And we have failed to take responsibility for our own actions.
Absolutely. I just love that. And the truth of it is, those times of separation consciousness, we are over with. It's the unity consciousness. I always say this, even, and yeah, in the self-development world, and it's kind of like, oh, I love myself, I don't need a man and all that. I'm like, the wound that is talking. When you're fully healed, you don't want to say all that nonsense, because it's a different thing when, like, I don't need a man just because I'm afraid of being hurt. Just call it thing, I'm afraid of being hurt. Just admit it. You wearing this, I call it mentalization of self-love, because self-love is not all these things. I'm going to do a massage and I'm going to say all these positive things. The question is, how do you show up to a part of you that is showing up with grief, that sadness? Or how do you show up to a part of you, like you say, sometimes we fuck up, and now we're going to look at that and say, I fucked up here. Or you're just going to push it under the rug and be like, oh, you know what, I'll watch it. Or it's going to disappear at some point in time, because it doesn't go away. It may just surpass the conscious mind and go to the subconscious. And the subconscious always wins. What it wants, it gets. This is why at times it's kind of like, I don't know why this is happening, because I've done so much work. I'm this positive person. But when I look at what I attract, I'm not happy with what I've attracted.
Yeah. And I loved our conversation. It's so unique because we go on a journey for many people to embark on. And the journey is always different for an individual, because who knows their circumstance, right? They might be in a really good place right now, or they could be in a very dark place. Sometimes that journey by themselves, in a sense, like, not saying that they have to go by themselves, but they have to experience it. It's almost like if you never had bad in your life, you would never you would never appreciate the good. So you have to have that yin and the yang, almost, where it's like, I'm going through this hardship so I can appreciate the good. Because most people, I love this example, when they're not sick, they're not worried about their health, right? They're like, oh, things are good. I'm going to eat a hamburger, a hot dog. I'm going to go have some champagne or some cookies. And the moment they get a doctor's note or they got the sniffles, the whole world is over. They're like, oh my God, I can't wait to get back to feeling better, to, feeling normal. But the reality is, we were always able to appreciate what we have had, and we can be living in the moment. But many people choose to always be thinking about the next step. And it's important to know where you're going, to know what you desire, to give yourself goals and dreams and aspirations, and to have a pathway for that. But you do have to heal. You do have to heal the mind. You do have to heal the soul, the spirit, the energy, whatever you want to consider it. So you can say, all right, let me start to pay more attention, versus let me just go so fast, because our world is just so fast today. And today, this conversation is definitely an opportunity for people to slow down, to pay attention, and to ask the question, how can I heal? How can I make the adjustments? And then, your first question, what are you agreeing to? And it's so powerful, right? The whole package of everything we spoke about. And I know the work that you do is helping people get to that healing, to find that agreement with themselves. And so what I would love for you to do is for you to tell the audience how they can reach you, find you, and begin working with you.
Thank you. I'm available on my website, gaomotsemme.com, and on social media as well as Gao Motsemme, Gao Motsemme or gaomotsemme.magnetic competence in Instagram. But here's the thing, as much as I can say, follow me and all that, we always do that and we always run around and get all the information. Information is not transformational. So when I say reach out to me, jump on the call and let's see how you can benefit from my methodology, because it's different. Like I said, I get to know where the emotions, the blocks are stored in your body, and I get to transmute that. It's different. And information, we can go around gathering information. And I love what you said about being on Google and in the how-tos on YouTube and running with that. Because I find people who at times tell me, I've done a lot of work with my inner child, or I don't understand what is going on. And there are a lot of help out there, and it's not everyone who is grounded and embodied who also walk the path. I love what you say, to say sometimes you get to go through life and experience it. And that's what I'm talking about when I say when it's embodiment, it's kind of like you're going to go through that. I went through a lot, and I believe part of it was the initiation to my work. Because when it comes to what we do in relationship, interesting enough, when you talk about communication, this is not spoken about a lot. But for any kind of communication to happen, thing should be out of the window, out of the door. There should be no judgment. Often we don't get to hear what is being said because our beliefs, whatever that we learned along the way, is telling us what to hear. We don't hear what is being communicated at the moment. When I said be in the body, you can be in the body, but if at all you are coming through with judgment, the first thing that you hear that you are not open to receiving, so it's going to trigger you, but trigger is also one of the things that is going to give you a breakthrough if you are open to receiving of yourself. When something triggers you, shows that there is a wound here that needs to be taken care of. So instead of looking for information, look for transformation. And that's what I offer.
Excellent. And I know I don't want people just to look at the information and take no action, right? Because as you said, information is not transformation, is 100% correct. Because you can read all the books in the world. The example that is a well-known example is like you can read a book, how to ride a bike, but it doesn't mean the moment you get on the bike, you're going to know how to ride the bike.
Absolutely.
And in life is the same thing, where you can read all of these books about success and about happiness and joy and fulfillment, and it doesn't mean that you're going to have it, because you have to know how to implement it. You have to have a coach, a mentor, a guide, someone there to help you navigate. In the trades, for example, it doesn't matter what trade. You could be a carpenter, you could be an electrician, a builder, home builder, and they all have to go through a series of apprenticeship. It's not something that they go to school and they say, well, I have a degree. You have to go through working with a master electrician or a master carpenter or a master plumber, because we learn best from others, and other people can see our blind spots. And, of course, it's very similar to Planet Fitness, right? The no judgment zone, where I know it could be hard in the beginning to open up, to tell people about your problems and your issues, because it might make you feel almost insignificant, where it's just like, I should be able to do this. Like, why can't I do this by myself? And the reality is we're not supposed to do it by ourselves. Exactly. So if you're over here trying to build an empire by yourself, great. But we can look at history, and the empire wasn't built just by one person. It was built by people, right? So surround yourself with people They say that you are the proponent of the 5 people you keep closest to you. So find those people, let it be a coach, let it be a mentor, let it be a guide, let it be someone who's going to uplift you. And this conversation is definitely a great place to begin. So as I said, all of the information will be in the description box below, so you can easily click it. Of course, follow, subscribe, do all those things. But then I also want you to take action, right? Because healing is not something that, especially when it comes to the mind, we can't just let it heal naturally. Like if we get a cut on our arm or our finger, the body knows how to heal. But when it comes to our energy and our soul, we have to give it some effort. We have to give it some introspection, because if we just think all of a sudden we're going to feel fine one day when we're literally like careening downhill, we're about to crash into the wall, we need to take control of the wheel. We need to start to drive back to where we would like to be. So I want to say I loved our conversation, and if you have any final words, let me hear them.
I actually want to say this thing because it's kind of like popping up. But this is also one thing that I also realized, especially if you really want to be successful in your life. Realize that people want success, but they're afraid of it. Because I've had even my who at times they just kind of like, no, I don't know if this is okay. There's a lot of things that are changing at once, and I'm scared because things that are normally taking long, all of a sudden everything is coming through. I've been waiting for this, nothing has been happening, and all this is happening. There's a lot of money that is coming through. I don't know what to do. So if you are by yourself, probably this is where you are, where some things were opening up and you got shit scared and you blocked it up because it's kind of like, what is happening? So when you have someone who can hold space, they can just say it's okay. Another thing as well, what is coming through is kind of like shame. Even dive deep onto this about the sexual energy, we just touched on it a little bit. But what I realized is that when some people are showing up, and I'm talking about where they have some sexual blocks, men, maybe they're having that any ejaculation or problem with their erections and all that. These are things that I often pick up on the body. And when I ask somebody like, oh, this is what is showing up, tell me about this. Kind of like, and after some time, they just come back and like, oh my God, this problem, and I gave it a test drive and I'm good. I'm back to my young boys time and all that. You understand? So at times you know what you know, but you don't know what you know to an extent of you getting the transformation. So when you are with somebody, especially like I said in my case, where I know, even if you don't tell me, the body will communicate. So you get to get that transformation, and then you'll talk about it when you feel comfortable, because shame is one of the things as well in disconnecting us from ourselves and also disconnecting us from life and even from source. So I just wanted to wrap up with that, and also to say, you know how you feel, because at the end of the day, the level that you are not fully free is the level that you are not fully joyful, and that is the level that you are not fully loving. So stop lying to yourself.
I think I'm going to end there because I don't need to say anything else. Everything was so perfect. So we're just going to leave it at that. Everyone, check out the links in the description box below. And thank you so much for coming on.